Dudignon's dominance has become so overwhelming that now that drop weeks are included, he's dropping a win from his results. But if it weren't for the Frenchman's incredible speed, the talking point of the season might just be the arrival of Eduardo Prado. Having grabbed a podium in all 4 rounds he's raced in, the Brazilian is sure to be there when Michel finally trips up. We'll see if the halls of Indianapolis can provide that opportunity as we get ready to watch round 6 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Young. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and is using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Adam, Indy's road course became something of a footnote for a few years after F1 left, but it seems like it's enjoying a bit of a second wind lately.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, of course, they decided they were going to go ahead and design this road course back when Formula One announced they were coming back about 98, and then, of course, it took a few years to actually get everything together. This layout is slightly different to what that Formula One road course has. The road course undergone a few evolutions over time. The layout we're running here today, of course, 13 turns, 2.605 miles, and with the second wind that you mentioned, Joe, of course, now IndyCar runs here a few weeks before they run the Indianapolis 500. You got a few other series that now touch this road course, so it gets used a few times throughout the year, and it really is a great layout that a lot of drivers rave about. And well, now we get to take these legendary Lotus 49 machines out here with downforce being, well, I guess it's not an afterthought, maybe a before thought, because, well, nobody really thought about that when these machines were running around here. So we'll get to get a taste of what that's like coming around, especially old NASCAR 3 and 4, which become 1 and 2, and IndyCar 1 and 2, as it becomes Grand Prix Legends Lotus 49, 12 and 13. We're going to go ahead and take a lap around the Lotus 49 machine.
All right, we're in the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Indianapolis. The run down to turn 1 is far and above your best chance at a pass during the lap, but with the high speeds, you've got to brake way earlier than you're used to in any other car. The opening chicane invites you to hit the first half a little quicker, but watch out for wheel spin if you get on top of the curb in the second half. Turn 3 requires some throttle modulation, and then you'll swing it out wide for the best entry into turn 4. This is a surprisingly slow bend, and it's easy to overestimate how much speed you can take into it. From there, it's almost one single arc into turn 5 where you're still playing with the throttle. But you've got to make sure to swing the car off the right and then slow it up for the patience trying turn 6. This is absolutely best with a late apex because, as you can see, 7 comes up right away, and you really want to open up this sharp right-hander as much as possible for a good launch onto the backstretch. The light gray pavement to the left is not considered inbound, so stay to the right of the white line. Turn 8 is probably the only other good place for an overtake, but this set of S's get progressively tighter and slower up until turn 10. Getting out of rhythm here can throw away a lot of lap time, but thankfully it's annoyingly hard for anyone to get by you. From there, make sure to cut far inside on 11 where the access road is paved at the apex. This brings us back to the oval portion of the circuit. In most cars, you'd be flat out through here all the way until turn 1, but in the 49, you're feathering the throttle in both 12 and 13. Ideally, you'll be aiming the car to feed smoothly onto the power as early as you can. Just be careful not to clout the outside wall on the exit. Hopefully, you've kept it together and have now finished a lap around Indianapolis.
See a lap around Indianapolis on the road course in the Lotus 49. Now let's take a look at the points this season. I mentioned we are still pretty straightforward up at the top. Dudigon, even though it says 200 points, that's because he's had to drop one of those wins. He still has a perfect record so far. Prado now jumps himself up to second with his 2 second places and 2 third places. That moves Roman Pawlowski down to third, but he's still been performing very well. Gary Thiel back up into the top 5 once again, and Ove Tranger just staying within the top 5 in our standings here. So some very familiar names and yet none of them have been able to topple Michelle this season. Adam, what about the Formula 2 championship? How are the points looking there?
I'll get that pulled up here and we'll take a peek at it. Hugh Haycock's in the lead there. 84 points so far this season, but he's got David Rossi coming up from behind, only 14 points back. Steve Hogan only 15 points back. And then Philip Urquhart, they're 19 points back. So you've got the United Kingdom and England and London and everything else taking a shot. France and Paris, they're only right there behind. The Australian Grant Patillo here, only 40 points behind. So F2 standings very, very much in play as the season goes along. What about the Constructors' Championship?
Well, the Constructors' Championship is mostly been contributed, of course, by Michel Dudignon, as that was, we are not the constructors, thankfully. There we go. It is actually considered the Nations Cup in this series. Dudignon, of course, basically giving all the points to France. The UK has been struggling to try to keep up, but they have not been able to overthrow him naturally. Germany's still in there. The US was within the top five, and then Brazil tied there in fourth with the US at this point. We now have Prado, of course, contributing. Now, I know it said France on Hugh for that F2 championship. He is actually racing from the UK. Well, he's racing in France, but he's from the UK, is what I should say. What about today's race details? We might have viewers, Adam, who haven't watched this before. So, what have we got in store?
Well, here for today, we're going to go around 23 laps around the road course here in Indianapolis. And it's going to be an exciting 23 laps, I'll tell you that much. 6 to 12 laps, 12 rounds. So we're just at halfway through the season. Of course, being an iRacing official series, they will get 2 drops. Setups are open. And the points, well, it's going to pay down to 25th. Now, that's not going to be too much of a problem here for today. Lots of course, the Spa 24-hour going on. Lots of other things going on in the middle of summer, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. So we've got, it looks like about 16 or 17 drivers here for this afternoon. But either way, still expecting a good race and lots of points on the line.
And of course, once again, you're watching this on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe when you have the opportunity. All you got to do that is go to their YouTube page, click on the big red button that says subscribe, because it'll be red if you haven't done it yet. And then you'll get all of the Grand Prix Legends series in your YouTube feed. The laps here actually tick off pretty quick, so most of our drivers have already finished their qualifying laps, and currently Michel Dudignon is on provisional pole, but Nick Claridge is currently in second. He comes back for another race. He's not in the championship, as we watch Daniel Sadro abandon his, well, no, he's not abandoned. He's already got both of his laps in. Ang also has both of his laps, so he's just warming up. Looking to see if we got anybody still working on theirs, and Schlacker is coming around to take his first timed lap this time by. We'll have enough time for that second one, it looks like, as he comes down across the line. Let's see what Stefan has underneath him. A 25.4. That is going to be good enough for 8th position, so firmly in the mid-pack. Now, you talked about that last corner that we just saw Stefan take here, Adam. And in most cars, most modern race cars, it's pretty much flat out. But man, and this thing, it is scary.
Oh, it is. I mean, no downforce, no nothing to hang it, to push you to the ground. You're almost feel like you're sliding almost all the way through it. It's a challenge to muscle this thing around. I mean, just how it would have been in the early to mid '60s for IndyCar drivers. Just to in the old USAC cars to be able to get around that corner. Of course, granted, going in the opposite direction when they're going around that corner, but still just as much of a challenge. And of course this year, I'm big in the Major Series. Stefan's big in the Major Series. We're taking this Lotus 49 over to Milwaukee here in just a few weeks. And I tell you, it's one of those cars and track combinations that's going to be very, very exciting to watch. And Stefan having some experience in this car gives me some concern about how well he's going to do. And by concern, it means I might have to try to beat him.
That's for sure. Yeah, he is. He's actually pretty quick in this car, I must say. And his second lap, well, that's not going to be quicker. 2/10 slower. He's the last one to put a time in. So he'll stay in eighth. And it sets our grid for today because everybody else has completed their 2 laps. So let's go through our starting grid. Michel Dudignon will be P1. He'll be on the pole. Mick Claridge will be next to him to see if he can be the first driver to beat him out on the track here in the broadcast race. As Rob Olenek will be starting third with Gary Teal in P4. Roman Pavlowski will be starting in fifth with Daniel Sadro in sixth position. The next row has Billy Bob Wright on the inside in seventh, Stefan Schlacker on the outside in eighth. Then it's Bruce Nelson in P9 and David Rossi rounding out your top 10.
Going to 11th position, Johnny Bell will start on the inside of row 6. Alongside him will be Colin Cooker, Glulio Furcloyne, and Andrew Ing start in row 7. And Colin Bentley and Robert Reynolds did not set qualifying times, but they are in the session and ready to roll.
So 16 drivers not currently trying to tackle Spa, as we are up against the 24 hours of Spa here today. But Indianapolis, its own legend in racing circles, so it's brought enough of these drivers in. As we wait for the rest of them to grid up, then we go racing for 23 laps out here today. Can somebody finally beat Michel Dudignon? McClarridge probably the most likely as the engines start to rev. The lights come up. Oh, nope, a little bit early on that. Just waiting for Robert Reynolds to get out there onto the grid. He's the last one to line up. There he goes as he pops himself out there. Now we get the lights up here in Indianapolis. Round 6, green flag is out. Dudignon with a fantastic start off the line. Mick Claridge has nothing for him. Rob Olenek under threat from Gary Teal as they come down into turn 1. It's a bit of a run as everybody tries to brake without running into one another. Can they do better than the Indy cars typically do into the first corner? The answer is yes. Everybody looks clean through.
Yeah, so far your front 5 have all gone single file with and then you have to go back to Billy Wright trying to take a look at Angelica Pavlovsky, and with Billy Wright losing that part of the battle. In fact, he's going to come under almost immediate attack from Daniel Sadro. He got a great jump at the start of this thing, but it's kind of waned here through the first couple of corners. But meanwhile, back up front, Dudignon still holding off Mark Claridge.
Michel currently holding the gap of a couple tenths over Mick as they work their way through the S's for the first time. Olenek giving chase. He was able to stay ahead of Gary Teal. And they come out onto the oval for the first time. Will anybody be caught out? So you can see just how much speed they start to get through here. 140, 150 miles an hour all the way up to the wall. And it is a great run from Mick Claridge. In fact, he's already on the attack as Michel goes defensive down into the first corner. Cloud cover comes over as they almost go through there too wide, looking for the over-under. Doesn't work out for Mick. Oh, in fact, did he get a slowdown penalty? He must have cut in too hard because... Oh... Watch the replay.
We're going to ride on board, and yeah, I tell you what, if he got a slowdown penalty out of that, it wasn't by much. Just barely clipped the inside there of turn 1. But that was costly because it looked like as long as he could stay with him, he had a chance. Oh, in fact, come back to Mark Claridge. He almost loses the back end. Rear wheels clip the grass, and he was just about 45 degrees sideways there.
Well, he's recovered, but he's down in 5th now, and that might have done his chances in to take the win away from Dudignon. I'd be hard pressed to think he could run him back down, especially with multiple cars between them at this point. This gives him a gap of about 1.2 seconds. Now, Andrew Ang is in pit lane. I'm trying to see if he hit something.
Oh, okay. So it's coming out of the turn 12 here. He was sideways on the banking, coming up onto the actual track, ended up rubbing the wall, and then just ended up being a calamity. 3-car accident here with Colin Bratley and also Julio Forcolin in that too.
Yeah, they couldn't really seem to avoid him. On our screen, he blinks out a little bit, which made avoiding him even harder, especially when you can't see him. And damage on the nose of Bentley certainly won't help his top speed on the front stretch. There's one more angle of it. Both drivers just plowing into the incident. Ang, the only one coming in for repairs so far. Dudignon leading by 1.3 seconds. Olenek now in second place. And Gary Teal up onto the podium, but both of them have fallen back from the number one machine.
Dugan continues to just set the best pace, but we're going to go fall back to P4 with Stefan Schlacker. Started this race in 8th position. He's showing some speed here, taking advantage of a few guys having poor starts and an accident or two, and that's Mike Claridge now under attack from, trying to attack Stefan here, and might have a good run at him coming up onto the banking. In fact, look at Mark Claridge. I mean, he is sideways coming up on there. Same with the Stefan Schlacker. And I think Mark Claridge fell off a little bit on him, but I think that's in order to try to get a run here down the front straightaway. Here he comes. He's in the draft. He's going to pull out. Stefan does not go defensive, and that's going to give the good position, I think, to Mark McClarich here as they head down into turn 1. They almost hit wheels, but everybody's able to avoid trouble. Move McClarich back up into P4.
So Mick has one down, 2 more to go to get back into second place. As that was happening, I noticed that Pawlowski went down the order. Oh, you know what? Pawlowski hit the wall, and this was also out of turn 12. Here I thought that 13 was going to be the big talking point. Let's see if we can find the replay on this. He managed to catch the car eventually. Not sure how much damage he got out of that, though.
I'll tell you that when we see it here a minute ago, it looked very similar to what we saw with Andrew Ng, in that he's sliding too much on the flat coming up onto the banking. Here it comes. Once he catches that banking, it almost tries to catch the car, but it actually still continues to slide out toward the wall, hits the wall, and ends up just spinning off of it as the car catches air, loses the grip. But just a gentle spin back onto the apron and the runoff down there, and away he goes, which of course is actually pit exit on the oval configuration.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't get some sort of penalty for maybe an unsafe pit entry, but looks like as he goes by this time, he should be okay. Now, Olenek has started to run down Michel Dudignon, not by huge amounts, but it is down to 1 second. It was down to 9/10 down the front stretch, which is fascinating because I don't believe we've seen Rob faster than Michel all season long thus far. So, not sure if this is Michel taking it easy or if this is Rob actually running him down.
You know, Michel doesn't seem to be sliding around as much as some of the other guys, but for that matter, Rob doesn't really either. And really, all you need to do, you're just 9/10 back. You just click off a 10th lap, and you'll be there with still about 10 laps to go. So you're going to be all right if you just click off a little bit every single time. And I think that's what Rob is doing right now. Is another 10th is gone from that lead. I mean, it's now down to about 8/10 right there.
Ride on board. I'm going to watch his timing to see if maybe it's the draft potentially. They do get a fair bit of speed, and yes, these cars do have some slipstream once they get up to speed. They're hitting 180, 190. It was 9/10 when they came onto the stretch, and it doesn't go any lower. So maybe my theory doesn't really hold any water quite right now. Regardless, as they come through the first set of S's, They also are bringing along Gary Teal and Mick Claridge, who has caught them. So it has become a 4-car train for the lead.
You know, already Mick Claridge with just a terrific recovery drive after that slowdown penalty. I'll admit, we both counted him out almost right away. Maybe kind of forgetting that's still a 23 lap race, but he still has Michelle Dugon in sight. So do not count Mick Claridge out yet.
In fact, he's hassling Gary Teal already. Couldn't make anything happen down into turn 8. We look from the back of Gary over the engine. In fact, looking at the time, when Mick first had his incident, it was about 5 seconds behind the leader, Michel Dudignon, that he had fallen. He's cut it down to 2.3. So Michel seems to be struggling a bit. I'm not sure if he maybe got a little bit of damage or something. Again, this is unusual. And off of the final corner, another good run from Mick Claridge down to the inside. Gary Teal does not fight it, lets him have the inside. As ahead of them, we got a little bit of blinking from Rob Olenek. And there goes third place to Mick Claridge. Next on the list, Rob Olenek in P2. And
Gary Teal ended up getting the same slowdown penalty that Mick Claridge got a few laps ago.
So it must be pretty easy to cut too far inside of that curb, unfortunately. Now, let's go down to 5th place because Stefan Schlocker himself leading a little bit of a train of cars. Billy Bob Wright and Daniel Sadro giving chase, trying to get into the top 5. I was about to mention the pace of some of these cars I don't think are being affected that much by the temperature. It's not terribly hot on the surface. It's only 89 degrees currently. We've been seeing the clouds come in and out, so that's been cooling it down here and there.
Yeah, the clouds I think are going to play a bigger role, because even if the track temperature doesn't necessarily drop as far as the average track temperature across the entire surface, I mean we get a cloud say over 12 and 13 on the oval corners there. That's going to really help people out as far as that run coming down the front straightaway. But with these cars, I mean, you get a cloud over any corner, that's bound to help you out, give you a little bit more of that mechanical grip.
And we did see as McClarridge has it down to half a second to Olenek now, but was not able to make the pass into the first corner. We did see that the winds are pretty high, gusting. They've gone back down to 10 miles an hour now that I look back to it, but for a while they were up as high as 14 to 17 miles an hour. These aren't aero-sensitive cars, but that's a fair bit of wind, and I believe it's said from the north, which, if I'm not mistaken, would be a headwind for these cars. So maybe that's affecting them down the front stretch.
Which, I mean, if they're still pulling 190 miles an hour going down the front stretch with a 10-mile-an-hour wind in their face, do not discount these cars and say they don't have speed. They definitely do.
Yeah, that's going pretty fast away as we ride on board the Brits. All right, can he get the run? Look at how good he is coming into the final corner. And coming off of it, not nearly as good trying to catch Olenek, but he doesn't need it because now he's got the slipstream. And once again, the car ahead doesn't seem interested in finding. They know the speed of Mick Claridge. Maybe he wants to see someone try and challenge Michel Dudignon because he gets the pass done. He's now back up in his second place. You're right. We wrote him off, but it is too soon to talk about the demise of Mick Claridge because the number 2 car has chased down Michel Dudignon to within 1 second. Now, can he actually get by?
Let me give you an idea here. Michel Dudignon, the last lap was a 24.7. Mick Claridge last lap was a 23.9, 0.8 of a second faster while making that pass on Rob Olenek there. So he has got some pace, and Michel is going to have to go ahead and start using that right foot just a little bit more, I think, here.
Chase is on. Is this shades of the Indy Grand Prix that we saw this year? between Simon Pagenaud and Scott Dixon. Rolls a little bit reversed. The Frenchman is leading in this case, being chased by a Brit instead. They have more than half the race left to go. Around the oval corner, through the reverse of turn 1, and onto the front stretch. It is down to 9/10 of a second. Another 10th cut out by Mick Claridge, this time by. Giving the curb a little bit wider berth this time, Mick Claridge. Not wanting to fall victim to that one again. Let's head back down while he tries to gather up those last few tenths to Stefan Schlacker. We were watching being chased by Billy Bob Wright and Daniel Sadro. This is for the top 5.
Found it really interesting there, the different lines that Stefan, Billy Bob, and Daniel all took through that corner. And we're seeing definitely a taste of 3 different driving styles trying to come together here. So this could be a very interesting battle if they can actually finish closing the gap up onto Stefan here.
Billy Bob, much tighter exit than Daniel Sadro we saw on screen. He went way wide. I'm surprised he didn't get a slowdown penalty from that, because I thought they had one out there, but I guess he was safe. Through the S's they go. And wow, Billy Bob much tighter through turn 11. Is this going to give him an opportunity? He's tucked up right behind Stefan Schlacker as they come onto the oval. He will definitely have the slipstream. Onto the front stretch. Billy Bob down to 2/10 of a second. Looks to the inside, maybe a little bit too early. Hurt that slipstream for him, and he's not going to get the chance.
You see how much these back ends try to come around as soon as they get on the gas, with no downforce on the rear. I mean, this is all mechanical grip around here, so definitely makes things interesting, particularly coming off the oval, going down to the road course section. And once again, I just love all 3 different lines that these guys here are taking. It looks so much more interesting than what you find on a high downforce cars. Once again, Sadro just really swinging out wide there.
Absolutely. And you know, we keep talking about the lack of downforce. It's not just that. It's that these cars have 400 plus horsepower, which,
Right.
I mean, doesn't sound like a lot compared to modern F1 cars. Is another look to the inside from Billy Bob Wright. He is anxious to make something happen, but consider this car isn't too much heavier than the Skippy, and then put all that horsepower on.
But, Skippy works because those wings are on there for just aesthetic purposes, I swear, on the Skippy. So, there you go.
Man, Schlacker responding well. He gapped Billy Bob Wright coming onto the front stretch to keep himself safe once again. So despite the number 8 seeming to have pace over Stefan Schlacker, it's in the wrong places, and he can't seem to do anything to get by the Austrian. As we've been watching this, I can report that Mick Claridge has cut it down to 0.6 of a second. He has nearly halved it now, up to our leader. He's not within striking range quite yet, but he's continuing to chip away.
Just a little bit here and a little bit there. Dugan is done his best to try to step it up a little bit here in the last few laps as well, but not as much as what Mick Claridge has. Mick Claridge is still very much on the ball.
Looking back from Schlacker now, this is where Billy Bob Wright always seems to gain. Seems to be much quicker here in the S's, and he keeps looking down shallow into turn 11, and nothing has worked quite yet. I wonder at what point does he just lick the stamp and send it. All right, what has he got on the front stretch this time? Maybe slightly different gearing. Again, there's no wings to change on these cars for him to be slower on this portion. Defensive move from Stefan. He feels under threat this time. Down into the first corner. We've seen over under from Billy Bob maybe. Oh no, he's a little bit wide at the apex. Sadro thinks about it because of that. He also is not able to successfully get by. So they stay in order. 5th to Schlacher, 6th to Wright, 7th to Sadro. At the front, McClaren setting the
McClaren just ran
the
a
race.
23.861. So he is quick. Fastest lap of the race so far out of anybody.
And
Ooh,
that
Michelle Dudagon there sliding through that left, right. Sorry, I know we're watching this other battle here, but McClaren's not able to take advantage of it though.
eh, eh, to tell you the kind of pace that Claridge is running, that's faster than his qualifying lap. So he has got the bit between his teeth to try and run down Dudagnon. The red mist has descended. The British Bulldog doing everything he can to be the first driver to finally take a win away from Michelle. And this is not for championship stuff because Mick Claridge has missed a bunch of rounds this season. So he's effectively only here for the win. There you see our leader just ahead, but he loses a little time through the S's this time through 7/10 of a second behind instead of 6/10.
Yeah, Mick Claridge is really closing in on him, but once Dudagon there kind of got loose going through the S's and starting to slide, I think Mick Claridge kind of backed off a little bit just because he didn't know how that car was going to react. So a little bit of a safety move there, gave up the 10th of a second, but with what he's showing is he can very easily get it back here.
And Billy Bob Wright has lost his 6th position. I'm trying to find it. I believe it happened on the final corner. He may have hit the wall. Oh, yeah, he gets the wall hard. Let's take a look at the replay. Unfortunately, this will hurt his pace badly because it's that left side of the car. Oh, pancakes it.
Yeah, that would look like it just suddenly just went understeery on him through there.
It really did. On board, it didn't look as hard as it did from off the car. So hopefully that didn't give him too much damage. He is able to keep going, but Sadro got by. And as we were watching that, a quarter of a second between P1 and P2 with 9 laps left to go. As Bill likes to say, though, Adam, it's one thing to catch a car, it's another to pass it.
Yeah, one of the very few soupisms that probably didn't actually start with Soup himself, but it very much is true because Michel Dudagon was still on it. He's still running perfectly good lines. It's just a matter of where can Mick Claridge, I think, stick his nose in at this point to try to sneak around him. And really, the best chance is going to be through, going into turn one. But we've already seen that Michel's going to run defensive going into turn one. I think if Mick Claridge is going to get it done going into turn one, he's probably going to have to try to go through the outside of that. Oh, and I just saw Mick Claridge kind of rounded off a corner a little bit too much. I don't see him slowing down, so I think he avoided the slowdown penalty as they come up onto the oval turns.
Yeah, that was turn 11, and I'm pretty certain you can cut off a fair bit of that. They've got lap traffic. Oh, and Reynolds is going to be at the wrong place at the wrong time because Michel cannot track out, but Mick Claridge can. And that, unfortunately, did not help him as much as he wanted. So he's not going to get the pass done. As that was happening, Daniel Sadro has had an issue. And as looks like it was coming into the S's. We could get a replay. He was looking on Stefan Schlacher, and yet another car that Schlacher is rebuffed falls by the wayside.
Sadro actually loses a couple positions. It just looked like he got a little dirt on the rear tires and just looped it around.
Right, yeah, there's the replay. We're going to watch it from on board as well. It's a very sharp left-hander, and it was already starting to swing like a pendulum. Goes all the way around. That moves him down to 9th. Roman Pavlowski gets by, and Bruce Nelson gets by, and Billy Bob Wright regains his position despite his damage. The question is, can he keep it with the left side a little bit subpar because Bruce Nelson has run him down to 2 seconds, I should say.
A minute ago, while we were on that replay, Mick Claridge was almost underneath the rear gearbox of Michelle Dudegon. Now it's kind of widened back up just a little bit in the last couple of corners, but Mick Claridge, he's just searching for a way right now.
I'm trying to see where that came from. If he had a mistake somewhere. And I think, oh, he did. Okay, so he had, it's not worth going for a replay, but he had 2 wheels off through the S's. So he had to try and catch the car and keep it from losing out. So he's now 2 seconds behind our leader. Meanwhile, we've gone back to Johnny Bell, battle for 11th. There's been so much action up front. We haven't been able to watch this between himself and Colin Bentley. The last 2 cars on the lead lap. In fact, well ahead of our leader, Michelle Dudignan, so they shouldn't get lapped anytime soon. Clouds come over, cooling down the track slightly as Colin Bentley, without a few of his aerodynamics, giving chase to Johnny Bell.
And really, he should be able to get him pretty easily here. It's just going to be another one of those things like what we've been watching with the leaders. He's just going to have to wait for the right time to actually stick his nose in there and make the pass.
You know, with him lacking the front of the car, though, I'm wondering if he's lacking a little bit of straight line speed. So it might be tough to take Johnny Bell into turn 1. He'll have to look elsewhere to see if he can gain that. So Schlocker has managed to get away from everybody, but Billy Bob Wright, with his problems coming out of this very corner, has allowed Bruce Nelson to now get within half a second. And Roman Pawlowski, after his mistake early in the race, also coming through. So we have a brewing storm, and Pawlowski gets into the back of Bruce Nelson, who spins to the inside. Pawlowski goes by. So there's one car falling down, not able to challenge Billy Bob Wright anymore. Let's watch the replay. Just did not anticipate gaining that quickly, it looks like. I wonder if that lapped car had anything to do with it. Maybe caught him out and maybe caused...
I think it's the best idea right now, because it just seemed like he wasn't able to anticipate that braking zone.
Nelson maybe braking a little bit earlier because he didn't think that he could get to the inside of the lapped car. Who knows what it is? Whatever the case, it means that now instead of Snelson, it's Pawlowski who is trying to chase down Billy Bob Wright. Everything sort of playing to the hands of Billy Bob up till now. At least the racing gods have been smiling on him. For the time being, he's only got to survive 5 more laps. This is our leader, Michel Dudignan, and something must have happened to Mick because he's now dropping instead.
Just watching his driving almost seems like he's getting to be more aggressive. He's not as smooth as what he was early, trying to gain back that lost time, and I think it's costing him time now. Of course, I say that, and I'm watching Michel Dudignan here, and he's firing off some of his quickest laps of the race here in the last 5 laps. So he definitely felt the pressure. I think now he's responding and just trying to run away with him while he has the opportunity. Oh, Mick Claridge really sideways there, coming off the back straightaway. Right there, I just think now he's pushing it too hard. I mean, he realized he messed up, lost 2 seconds, and now struggling to get that time back.
Yeah, and I went to look to see if he had contact with a wall anywhere, and no, it all looked clean. I am completely baffled by this. Billy Bob now has Roman Pawlowski within a half a second. It was 0.8 last time by. Roman with a spin sent him all the way down to 9th place. Only been able to recover to 7th, but a 6th place would be better than that. So as they come off the final corner, oh, this is a fantastic run. The yellow machine ducks to the inside. Gets on the binders, but not as late as Billy Bob Wright, who looks very good on the brakes down into turn one. Not quite good enough because Roman now moves into sixth.
The other battle we were watching a few minutes ago between Johnny Bell and Colin Bentley. Colin Bentley was able to get around him. Johnny Bell ended up spinning going into turn 8 just a little while ago, but so that battle settled out and it went to Colin Bentley.
And that puts them much closer to Michel Dudignon, who might just lap them now at this point with the spin from Johnny Bell. That's Roman Pavlovsky we see on screen, running away from Billy Bob Wright, struggling with a damaged car. That car off screen you saw was Colin Coker just letting cars go by. He did have a little bit of a spin, but not worth a replay. Only one retirement so far, and that is Andrew Ang out of our 16, 15 cars still running on track. Robert Reynolds is the last of them. Let's take a look at 8th position, because this is actually Sadro and Snelson, two drivers that should be a little bit higher up in position. So I wonder if Snelson has anything for the number 5 car. They work their way through turn 1, swing it back through 2, trying to smoothly get on the power through 3 before once again you got to break into turn 4. Just does not stop here early in the lap. And then without the newer version of the Grand Prix course here at Indianapolis, they swing through 5 into the long left-hander, a 6. Sadro continuing to be hounded by the number 7 car. Not missing anything up front. Dudignon holding station at 3.5 seconds with 2 laps to go. Bruce doing all he can, knowing time is running out. The Club Northwest driver wanting to try and overtake Daniel Sadro, gaining those precious few points. Onto the front stretch, a little bit too far back for the slipstream.
Yeah, I think he'll feel it a little bit, but it's way too far back to, I think, do anything with it, although he'll, kind of fake sneak his nose down there.
Trying to get into the head of Daniel Sadro. Anything he can do to get himself an edge. So, and I'm not sure what that puff of smoke was for up ahead of them. They're behind Billy Bob Wright, but they've got 4 seconds up to him. So even though Billy Bob a little bit compromised, not sure that they're going to be catching him with the time they have left, because white flag is coming out for the leaders. Michel Dudignon now extends it to 4.5 seconds over Mick Claridge. False hopes given to anybody who want him to be beaten by someone else, but still an impressive ride by Dudignon.
And I don't think it showed up on the screen, but I think on that lap, Michel Dudignon there set the fastest lap of the race so far that I've seen at 23.816. So, a few laps ago, he ran at 23.793. So he's definitely thrown down his fastest laps here in the last 8 laps of this race. I mean, he just got set sail once Mick Claridge got close to him.
Maybe managing his pace until the end. Maybe he knew that the tires potentially would go off, and that could explain what happened to Mick Claridge as he used up his stuff, and finally they went away from him. This is a bit of an unusual course since they do have that long left-hand sweeper, which includes both 12 and 13. We'll have to ask them once they come around for the interviews. Michel usually doesn't hop on in as he doesn't feel confident about his English. But here in America, he doesn't have to worry about how he speaks, just how he races. because he is going to be the fastest car today in round 6, taking another victory, 6 for 6 for Michel Dudignon. Going to be second for Mick Claridge, and Rob Olenek didn't get any of the attention after he got ran away from, but he'll get a third place, and Gary Teal collecting a quiet fourth.
Yeah, down in the 5th position, Stefan Schlacker, he's going to come home in 5th with Pavlovsky starting to close on him the last few laps. Pavlovsky's going to run out of time, so that's going to be your 5th and 6th cars coming across the finish line. Billy Bob Wright's going to come home in 7th here for today. Daniel Sadro is going to be able to hold off Bruce Nelson.
Just by about half a second across the line. The last 2 cars nowhere close to each other for a race to the finish. So that's going to lead us to a break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, but on screen you're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The road course played host to the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. Michel Dudignon took another victory. We thought for a little bit that maybe Mick Claridge could challenge him and take the win away, but both a slowdown penalty towards the start and towards the end scuppered his chances. He finished second in the end. Rob Olenek finished P3 and finishes out the podium with Gary Teal taking fourth. Stefan Schlacker kept being challenged by people, and it looked like maybe someone would be able to overtake at some point, but he stayed cool while everybody else made mistakes, giving him a top 5. Roman Pavlovsky gets 6 after recovering from a spin, and Billy Bob Wright 7th. Daniel Sadro 8th. Bruce Nelson grabs 9th. The top 10 goes to David Rossi.
And looking at 11th place on back, we'll find Colin Bentley. He's the last car in the lead lap. Johnny Bell ended up having a spin there toward the end. Colin Cocker ended up not, but Giuliano Facloin ended up having a spin as well, ended up limping home 1 lap down. Robert Reynolds was 2 lap down, and really I still think the only retiree we had today, Andrew Ng, did not have a long day out there at Indianapolis.
Hey there.
And hey, Gary, this is Gary Teal that's joined us in the booth as Gary managed to grab a 4th place just off the podium. Uh, Gary, it seems that you were given chase for part of the race, and then suddenly the leaders started to pull away.
Well, yeah, that was probably a little bit of the case, but I also got that massive, like 2.5 second penalty around that right after you come off the front straight. Those either turn 1 or turn 2, same one that Mick got. So yeah, I didn't have a chance of grabbing on anybody's draft after that, and that's the only way I would have stayed up with those guys.
That's unfortunate. It seems like it was a big sticking point for a number of drivers here today, and I heard Mick saying that one of them he didn't even know was there. Were you also kind of caught out? I mean, did you experience that much in practice?
In practice, I probably ran over that 2.4 second penalty 1 or 2 times just to know where it was, and inevitably, I was paying too much attention to try and stick with Mick, and I ran over the curb too far, and that was it. So yeah, I knew it was there. I didn't know where the one that Mick was talking about, the DRS one. I've never gone out that far, so he found a new one for me.
Well, that's unfortunate that you guys both had your races a little bit compromised by that, but still 4th place. The question is there any track coming up in the schedule? Do you think maybe you could take it to Michelle? He's got a perfect season so far here in the broadcast races.
No way in hell ever on any track. But I would like to thanks Stefan today for keeping those faster guys behind him, because they would have definitely been a challenge. I saw Angelica back there, and Billy Wright, and Daniel Sadro, and Bruce, all of which are capable of catching me in most races. So they must have got stuck behind a good defender a little bit today, I think. I don't know. I'll have to watch the replay.
Yeah, he held them back, and then they made their own mistakes. So you're right. He did a fantastic job staying cool. Well, again, commiserations, but still 4th place is a decent finish today.
Yeah, that's good for me. All right, thanks, guys. See you next week.
Was Gary Teal, and Adam is going to be talking to Mark Claridge today.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Mick, the joke there is the fact that for the first half of the race, I decided to call you Mark, and I'm not quite sure why. So I'm going to apologize to you for that, Mick. Hey, great race out there. You really looked like you had something for Michelle there up until about 8 laps until the end. Did the tires just go away, or did you have another problem?
Yeah, don't worry about my name. I've been called a lot worse than that. Yeah, no, it was really hard to see. I've got a real problem with seeing where the hell I'm going when the clouds come over through the rift, so I have trouble even hitting some of the apexes. So that's where the time went at the end. But no, it was good to be on pace, and fair play to Michel there for waiting when he was out front and he watched me get the slowdown. He says he didn't wait, but he said he was playing it safe, but he did. He waited for me to see if I could get through there and get up front and battle with him again, So fair play to him. No, it was good to be on pace,
Yeah, well, absolutely, and you definitely were the fastest car on the racetrack there for quite a while. Especially after that first slowdown, you had to fight your way to get back up into 2nd place, get around a few cars. What's passing like here?
It's not too bad, to be honest with you. It's quite a wide track, and the only thing that was annoying me was that my 5th gear was hitting the rev limit from about 200 or 300 meters before the braking zone. So it was a nightmare trying to get around anyone into turn 1, But fortunately, I was able to sort of brake as hard as I could, and then even left off the brake a little bit, to edge in front again, to try and get the apex and try and get the position. But yeah, it was nice and safe passing. It's not too bad here, to be honest.
All right. Well, hey, Mick, are we going to be able to see you next week? I know you've missed a few races. You going to be around then?
Yeah, I'm back for the rest of the season now, so I'm going to try and give him some hell, try and stop his winning streak because he's won every bloody race he's a git.
Well,
let me
I
just
guess we'll
before,
see. I guess
before I get kicked off, let me just say hello. There's a couple of guys watching. There's Denise and Manu was sitting at home watching. So hello to those.
All right. Well, hey, Mick, I appreciate you stopping by, and hopefully we get a chance to talk to you next week.
Cheers, man.
That was second place, Mick Claridge. And finally, we're going to talk to Stefan Schlacker, who apparently had a very grateful Gary Teal ahead of him. Steph, we've said it multiple times here in the post race. You stayed cool under pressure, and everybody else around you fizzled out.
Yeah, I don't get faced if someone like dives into you and stuff like that. I watch my rearview mirror and that's it. I'm not even caring about stuff like that unless you obviously go in there. But it just comes with that experience. Like I'm now 10 years into sim racing, so it really comes with the experience that you start not really giving that much care about stuff like that anymore.
We saw a few drivers out of turns 12 and 13, the last two, find the wall and get some damage. How was it out there in this car? Was it tricky in these conditions to keep it off there?
It certainly is understeery, especially through the last turn. You don't want to get too high too early because that banking really does drop quite heavily, and then you have that more push. For me, it's actually a bit more precarious through the second last turn because you have an off cambered and you get thrown onto the banked corner of turn 2 on the oval. So it's an interesting camber switch there for sure. I always just try to stay into shift early into fourth for that turn and just not let the rear hang out there.
Next round, we're going to the Nürburgring. Are you one of the drivers that is a fan of that place, especially in this car, or is this one that you're not looking forward to?
Give me any car on the Nürburgring, I shall drive it.
Attaboy. All right. Well, we'll see you next week then in Germany, and hopefully we'll see you try and take it to Michelle.
I probably will take it to the pits at one point because hitting one of the barriers.
All right. At least you won't have to worry about bodily harm. That was Stefan Schlacker, our fifth place driver here today at Indianapolis, and it's going to wrap up our show. A big thank you goes out to the Lotus 49 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage, and also to iRacing for putting us on IESN. Make sure and subscribe. All you got to do is go to their YouTube page. If you haven't subscribed yet, the subscribe button will be nice bright red. Of course, thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Gram. As we mentioned, the next race we're going off to the Nürburgring. That is the Nordschleife that they are racing. It's the big track. That'll be Saturday, July 27th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.